Scenic Hotel Group, a place to stay no matter your staycation. From the Legacy Collection for those special occasions, to Heartland Hotels, with room for the whole whānau. Find your place to stay at scenichotelgroup.co.nz.
News came through in the last couple of days that to support player welfare, the RFU, the governing body of the game in England, has agreed to lower the height of the tackle across the community game, that is basically everything below the professional level, from the 1st of July of this year. Now, this is designed to improve player safety, and informed by data, the change aims to reduce head impact exposure and concussion risk in the tackle for both the ball carrier and the tackler. Now, evidence from studies, this is reading from the RFU's release, has consistently demonstrated that higher contact on the ball carrier and closer proximity of the ball carrier and the tackler's heads are associated with larger head impacts and an increased risk of concussion. So, lowering the height of the tackle and encouraging the tackler to bend more at the waist will minimise the risk of this occurring while maintaining, it says here, the tackle as an integral part of the game. So as from next season, from July of 2023 and into 2024, the tackle height will be at waist height or below. Waist height or below. Going to bring in UK-based Australian front rower Ollie Hoskins, who played Super Rugby for the Western Force and since 2016 has been with London Irish, who he's close to clocking up 150 appearances for.
Hoskins. Great run here from Ollie Hoskins. Still going, Hoskins. Away from one tackler, away from another. Up to 10 metres away from the line. Goodrick Clark bundles off. Ezequiel bounces him. Jackson, missed pass, Ronan, they've got a 2-on-1, up to Hassel Collins, the bonus point score, and London Irish are back in front with a more comfortable margin.
Yeah, Ollie Hoskins involved in that move. He also debuted for the Wallabies in November of 2021. Ollie Hoskins is with us from the UK. Thanks for joining us across New Zealand, mate. Off the back of this news, you tweeted this. I was part of the trial of similar laws during the Championship Cup season a few years ago. We literally, you've tweeted, had exponentially more concussions because of it. Tackle choice is situational, and forcing low tackles in all cases can be even more dangerous. Ollie, can you tell us first of all about that trial and your involvement in it?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think it was maybe 2018 or so. We had a trial in a cup competition when we were down in the championship, and that was tackling below the armpit, or they call it the nipple line, which isn't even as low as this trial. And I think it was scrapped after a couple of rounds of the Championship Cup, because the one game I played in it, I remember we had 2 or 3 in the game, boys having to go off with head knocks. And yeah, I just feel like it just put people in a compromised position when otherwise it was an avoidable situation. If there's lots of reads on defence and lots of defensive situations where a low chop tackle is really effective and it's the best option for not only like the benefit of the game but also your safety. But also there's lots of situations where putting your head down and being in a compromised position when you're making a late read or anything like that can really make you vulnerable for knees, hips, and all that sort of stuff to the head, which is what happened pretty much in that trial.
Yeah, from what I've read about that trial, the number of concussions from upright tackles did fall markedly, as was hoped and probably expected. But there were increased concussions when a bent-at-the-waist tackler was attempting to tackle a bent-at-the-waist ball carrier. Is that the problem here, that not all tackles in rugby are made on upright runners?
Exactly. Well, we're taught to generate quick ball in a lot of situations. If you're running into multiple defenders, we need to drop a body height, and that's what we're taught. Otherwise, you get held up in the tackle. And a lot of the situations, especially with forward runners and stuff, you're running into multiple defenders, and if both defenders are forced to go low, then that's going to create opportunities for both defenders to either hit each other, head on head, getting hips, knees, all that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure what the solution with this is, because it's almost impossible to enforce only one person allowed in a tackle, and if someone's running straight at you, you have to back away. So I think that it's a bit of a rush decision, whether it's I'm not sure how. I think the theory of it behind it is player welfare, but I'm not sure how much actual thought's gone into the application of it all.
When you had to change your tackling approach and tackle even not to the waist, but as you say, to below the nipple line, how much of a change in mindset did that require to do that?
A lot, because we were playing normal tackle laws in one competition, then they were trialing this in another. So when this competition came about, we had to spend a training session or two really focusing on changing our whole defensive system, our whole sort of ideology around that. Even if boys were given more time, I don't think it would have made much of a difference, because we've been playing rugby a certain way for so long that in split situations, sometimes an upright tackle is safer, more beneficial, and the right option. I'm not sure how much thought has gone into the actual application of this, and I think that people can just rely themselves or completely change the sport for player welfare when I actually don't think it's going to do much for the actual concussions. It may help ball carriers slightly, but I think the tackler is much, much more vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think that's what the RFU says. I'm just quoting from their press release. Evidence from studies has consistently demonstrated higher contact on the ball carrier and closer proximity of the ball carrier and the tackler's heads are associated with larger head impacts. But I guess effectively they're saying that head-on-head contact is more dangerous than, say, head-on-hip or head-on-knee, and that's just not the case, is it?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think either of them are as one's good, one's bad. I think no one goes on the pitch wanting to get concussed, but it's a contact sport, and there is risk that everyone who plays rugby understands that it is a physical game, and contact is a large part of being good at the game and what people enjoy about the game. And there is a level of risk, regardless if you're chop tackling, or tackling up. There is a level of risk, and I feel like they're trying to find the lesser of two evils. And in this case, I don't think they're getting it right at all, because you're trying to make people relearn the game, and you're putting a certain group, the tackler, at much, much, much higher risk than the ball carrier. And I mean, there are head-on-head collisions, and no one enjoys that. It's not a good part of the game. But I feel like the level of concussions or head knocks in general, be it knee to head, hip to head, any of that sort of stuff, is going to go through the roof. Head to head may come down, but that's one area of the concussion sort of debate, I guess.
And if we put the safety aspect off to one side and talk about a game situation, for a guy who, I guess, likes to free his arms, and I see Sonny Bill Williams has been tweeting about this, he said, look, he'll get the offload away every time. Defensively, how difficult is it going to be to stop guys?
I don't really know what the solution is there. I think you're going to be seeing some very, very high score lines. And I also think that one of rugby's greatest appeals is that it embraces all body shapes, all sizes, and there's a place for everyone. Now they're trying to literally eliminate a massive aspect of the game, which is direct collision, and they're going to encourage. I think I read something that they're encouraging all ball carriers to become evasive or whatever. That not everyone is an evasive, hot stepping sort of player, and a lot of people make their livings or be very effective rugby players by being physical, and that's a core aspect of the game. So I think taking away that physicality and expecting everyone to just chop tackle and single man tackles and little chops and people offloading, I don't even think that will make the game a better spectacle, because the scores are going to be astronomically higher, and it's going to devalue the try in a way. So it's going to create a massive shift. I'm not sure that they've thought through too much. I'm sure they had a lot of people agree on this, but I'm not sure what the rationale behind the decision was. It's a bit baffling to me.
Yeah, and especially from someone so deeply ingrained in the game like yourself. At junior level, Ollie, is there any merit here in teaching junior players correct tackling technique early in their rugby journey? Is there any merit to this at junior level?
Yeah, massively. I mean, but when I was younger, everyone was taught to tackle low, because there is a lot of a large size discrepancy. For instance, if you're a small guy, you get taught to tackle low. Even I was a bigger kid, I was always taught to chop tackle and tackle low. I don't think this is going to be a massive issue in the younger ages, because the collisions aren't that enormous. You're not getting massive head-to-head contacts, I doubt, in an under-10s game on a Saturday morning. Where it comes into play is more in the adult game and schoolboy level and that sort of stuff, where people are starting to come into their own and understand the complexity of the game and the physicality goes up. I think more importantly than saying that you have to tackle a certain way is to teach people different tackles for different scenarios. If you've got multiple options running at the line and you're having to make a defensive read in a split second on the ball, you're going to put yourself in a compromised position if you have to make this read and then also duck your head and get yourself into a compromised position. That's a situation where an upright tackle is better because you have to stay upright longer so you can make the correct read. Whereas if you're forcing people to duck their heads and make these reads at the line at pace while people are running at them, it's nearly impossible. And if you do make the correct read, you're going to be in a compromised position. There's no way you can make an effective, safe tackle if you're forced to duck below the waist, which is like a significant drop for taller players, bigger players. It's a very trying to blanket every tackle or every player in under one sort of say you have to do this, just kind of I think defeats the purpose of the whole player welfare notion.
Have you found anyone who supports this?
I mean, there's been a few. I mean, I've no professional player that I've spoken to be honest. I haven't seen one of the boys of my team or anyone that I've seen on Twitter or any of the professional boys. I think everyone's quite baffled by it. And everyone in the community. I think there's a petition going around the UK right now that's got like tens of thousands of signatures ready to try and get to reverse this. So people in the community game don't seem to want it. And I know that whenever there's a change, there's always a knee-jerk reaction. People are adverse to change. But I don't think it's about that. I think this is a genuine like worry for the game. And I know a lot of people, it could turn people off rugby, which is already a problem all over the world. People are trying to make the game more attractive and that sort of stuff and boost the popularity of the sport. But I mean, this is something that could definitely, especially in the UK, with this being introduced with RFU, I think this could detriment the community game, which is the heartbeat of any sport.
Indeed. And just to finish, you probably answered this earlier, do you have any idea what the outcome might be here, Ollie? Will a petition like this carry any weight? The trial you were involved in not that long ago was called off because it wasn't really working. What do you see in the future of this?
God, I'd like to think that they'd take some community feedback and realise that they've maybe made a bit of a brash decision. I think the fact that they didn't consult anyone outside of their panel, I think, whoever made the decision about this is a bit strange, considering that it affects hundreds of thousands of players across the country. And I'd say if they surveyed all the people in the community game who are affected by this rule, I'd say it would be a landslide. No, thank you. We understand the risks involved, and we're happy to keep playing rugby the way we have for 50 years. So I hope that the reaction to this has kind of spurred something in to be like, okay, maybe we should pause the brakes on this and maybe trial it at some younger ages. If they brought it in from like for people under 12s and down or whatever, then that's fine. It's teaching kids correct tackle technique, and then once they get to a later age, you're teaching them about making the correct decisions around tackle. But to force adults and people, pretty much anyone who's a non-professional rugby player, to play one way, that is so drastically different to what everyone's known for a long time, I think is a very brash and strange decision, which I hope gets reversed. I think that's what everyone's hoping with this sort of reaction.
Yeah, I know our listeners will have a lot to say about it off the back of our chat with you, Ollie. Thanks so much for taking the time and wrapping your expertise and analysis around it. Fascinating issue. Let's hope that there's some common sense in our future. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.